Well,
All right.
Oscar, you bring up a very good question. When we jury for shows, it says materials and techniques. That's what we're to write about. But
Yes.
is the why the artist makes what they make, whether you call it their inspiration, um, just their overall gestalt of why they make what they make, is that important to the jurors? Would that be important regarding from the juror's point of view, judging your work?
Because the thing that I'm wondering is, we only have, most of the shows only have 4 images, and they have to kind of convey something, but it's kind of hard to convey an idea with 4 images sometimes. And also the other thing I've been noticing with people winning, getting into the shows and winning awards, is just about the technique. And you see the work, and the work is nothing special. I just think that we emphasizing too much in technique and not the both things together, because in my opinion, good art is where the technique and the story behind the imaging means it goes together, one hand to hand. And I think that we're tilting everything to just the technique and forgetting about the image you put in front of it. Because sometimes I see the work and I'm going like, okay.
I think that the inspiration behind it, or however we want to call that, is what makes it art as opposed to a product.
Yeah, because I think that the artists are becoming more, I kind of, this with craft, you kind of do that, but with most of the other stuff, you should be able to convey some kind of message, not just make it just a product, because that's what most people are doing now.
Well, with craft, you also can convey that.
Yeah, I know, but it's a little more difficult.
Yeah, but
It
the other,
depends.
I think the issue that Oscar is trying to make is the jury images look different than the work.
Can you say that in a different way? Can you rephrase?
Well,
Jury
not saying that.
images look different than the work.
Yeah, I mean, people are getting into shows with, but
That's a totally
when you see the work in the booth, it's ordinary
that's a totally different
issue.
Right.
thing than expressing your concept.
Right. I think those are two different.
I have a really bad attitude about process and process being involved.
Yeah.
It's all about process.
Well, let court speak.
Well, Oscar was just kind of talking about process and that, sometimes, and correct me if I'm wrong, Oscar, but I got that you were saying that sometimes it seemed that process was more important than the final product. Is that what you're saying, Oscar, or getting at?
That's what I think he was saying, that seems to happen sometimes.
He was saying that the jurors judge process versus concept. I think that's what he's saying. That's what you're saying.
I froze myself out for a second, so I didn't hear what court saying.
So were you saying that you think judges sometimes put process over the final product?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, because of the unique situation I'm in with my work and photography and digital photography, it hasn't happened lately, but it was not unusual that at least once or twice a year someone would walk into my booth, ask if my work was digital or film, and I would say film, and they would leave. And last time it happened, they walked in, I said digital, and then went and turned and walked out. And there was another couple in the booth looking at my work and talking to me when this happened, and they were dumbfounded. They go, "What was that all about?" And I had to explain it to them that, and so I quit. One of the things that I started doing was when people come in and ask film or digital, I turn it back around to them and I say, "Why don't you tell me?"
That's interesting. So I forget sometimes to talk about inspiration, but I hear Eric when he's selling in my booth, and when he talks about it, you can see that, oh, and then they find their way to relate to my work, where I just talk about this is how this is made. And so it is a really nice way to engage people. The technique could make people glaze over also. And like Court with you, it's like, digital or, other processes, and they're satisfied and now they could leave. I think that's what happens.
Well, you have the final artwork, you have the process that it took to create the final artwork, and then you have whatever inspiration caused you to create the final artwork. And those are all three separate things.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I see, and again, some of it is directly related to photography, is there's no way to really judge creativity, but people are really good and can judge process. They can judge technique.
Well, but creativity, the
I
way
think
you
just
judge
the
it is, oh, I like it. It's really
No,
ambiguous.
I think a lot of people, if you don't have the technique and you don't have the skills to, paint or to sculpt or to, throw, I think a lot of artists put more stock in those skills than they do creative talent.
It's just that to me, I'm assuming that when you get to certain point, techniques should be secondary. It should not be the most important thing, because
That's
it should
right.
be given that you should be able to produce everything in certain kind of way. I understand that some things you don't know how to do because you have to keep learning technical stuff. But I think that when you see the body of the work, like in photography, are you communicating an essay through your booth? Are you telling a story through your booth? Are you telling something about it in your booth? I just like are you when you go to a gallery, you selling a story of the image, and I'm wondering when the show are we just, or for what I see mostly now, I understand it doesn't happen. The opposite is that you only see technique, and you see one image and you go like, what is the big deal about that? It's just like you take a photograph, for example, because I printed in Bandai Brown cyanotype print the same image, or black and white, or color, or metal print. Does the image does the image is any better because I printed in a different way, or it's just the images that what you see is more, say that you take a picture of a carrot, that if I printed in cyanotype, that's going to make a better a more artistic image because I printed in cyanotype instead in color. And that's a really stupid sample, but that's
no. I think there's I've had this conversation with other artists, and I think, especially in photography, they see photography as not having any skills. Like a painter has to be able to mix paints and colors, and Barry, you've got to form your pieces and select glazes and mix glazes, and Allison, you've got to form the metal pieces and actually make something with your hands. And because we're not making something with our hands, it's seen as less.
Although
Are-
you could look at the work, of, certain famous photographers, if you're aware of their work and recognize their style.
Yeah, but
Wait,
Barry,
wait a minute. Yeah. See, that's Court, that's a problem because photography, every medium has its skill set or what you have to think about, the concept part. And photography, it isn't just, hey, I'm taking a shot, and I'm blowing it up. It's
The light,
lighting outside and capturing something at a specific time and using certain f-stops
and the
and
depth of
exposure.
field, or what's in the
There's a lot,
forefront.
there's really a lot to it that, and I would question any artist that they're not artists if they're questioning that. It means they don't know anything, which actually is part of what I've been saying for a long time. People don't know anything.
well,
They don't,
Barry,
and they shouldn't.
I find that the artists that question photography the most tend to be the artists that are more educated, meaning they have an MFA.
I think they're the ones that have the biggest egos because to say to actually imply that it's a lesser form is that's, first of all, it's sophomoric. It's a college thing. That's what you would do in college. When you get out there and you see and you see how things are done and how people work. I have a lot of respect for photographers. I think they're doing some great stuff. They're
The thing
both
is,
doing great stuff. So
And then, I got into it with another artist, and it's like, well, I started as I was a photographer. I know all about it. And it's like, not the way you're talking.
that's right. Listen, I have the same problem. I'm going to tell you something. I joined a Facebook uh, play group. It's actually, it's a Raku group, and I just wanted to see something. So eventually, I posted 2 pieces up. It's been the feed. I've gotten 200 likes and all kinds of comments, very specific comments. Whereas in the art fair world, oh, I'm just like not good enough. Based on the fact that I'm getting rejected from everything. And yet in the clay world, if you actually know something, then I get some modicum of respect. And I don't expect to get into every show, but to get rejected now from everything, it really is disappointing. And then to have a group of people that actually know say, yeah, these are great. I mean, it's great, and it makes me feel good, but it also makes me feel bad that I'm getting rejected from everything. And my thing is, we jumped here from jurors to people coming into the booth. People coming into the booth, it doesn't matter to me if they don't know anything because I do both. I do a combination of concept and technique. And you have to know because some people technique, their eyes glaze over. So you kind of have to watch out for that, if they're, but telling them where things come from, certainly, I do cutouts of my pieces, and they actually come from specific things. There is an inspiration. There is a reason why I do that particular cutout, and it's great to tell them that. It opens their eyes. It helps me sell. So the best way in terms of selling is to have both. But getting back to the juror thing, it's really a dilemma to me because I'm feeling really insecure about this. It's like why apply to any shows because I'm just throwing money away. It's like I don't want to do it because I hate the rejections, and I suppose everybody does. But
I've got to go back and look at, and it's been, months since I applied to anything, and I've got to go back
Yeah.
and look at, I'm pretty sure I changed some of the wording, in your little 100 word or character or whatever statement. And I need to go back and compare it to what I had before, because I think what I changed it to, I think I went the wrong way with it. So I may have gone
They
away
don't ask
from,
enough information. For instance, I took a clay class about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and I was I was the only professional in there. They were all college students. But what the instructor was a internationally known pottery award winner, is won the top prizes in the world, and he made us do all these writing things. So I actually learned, whereas before I had everything on one thing, like a resume. So everything was on one thing. We had to do a bio, a 50-word bio, not any more than 50 words, a CV, okay, which is all your awards and galleries and accomplishments and all that. And the third thing was a artist statement. That was the third one. And the fourth one was a skill set. What are you good at outside of just working in clay? Are you good at computers, whatever? So those are four things, and they were all separated, especially the CV and the artist statement and the bio. And once I started doing that, it opened my eyes. Yeah, this is the way it should be, and this is what we should be having to give. Not a 100-word statement, what that of okay. And they don't even follow that. They should follow what they say. Technique. They say technique, or how you do this. Okay, you can do that in 100 words, but then don't, like, there's some shows that go, well, we wish you had said, given some inspiration or
And that only happened
creative
once.
thing. No, there's not enough space for that. It's a separate thing. That should be on every.
That was only one show that did that.
Yeah, but it reminds me, or it makes me think that, yes, that would be really great to have another category where you can write unlimited, like your bio, not your bio, your artist statement. It's
Some shows,
that way.
some shows ask. I think Art in the Pearl, and I can't remember, asks for that. But the other thing is, they're jurying 500 to 1,200 artists, so there is that.
Well, no, Barry, we just in the Artist Inc. class, we talked about those very things last week.
Yeah.
And how they all have different purposes and how they all need to be separate, and how, like, I'm going to pick on the bio because that's the one that comes to mind most, how they also, besides being separate, they also need to be somewhat customized for whatever you're using it for.
Yes.
And that bios, you need maybe 3 of them that are different lengths for different uses. And they were talking about the bios that you provide places a lot of times, if you're a speaker somewhere, they just read your bio as that's your introduction. So you need to understand and word them correctly and make them the right length.
Hey, that reminds me of something. What was said to me was that, since it's 100 words, 100 letters, so sometimes you don't write full sentences. You just start with, you don't start with I. You start with what you're doing, and that's what this person told me, that you need to construct complete sentences because they're going to read it, because that's the one they're going to read out loud. So or post it, when they're putting down information about you for the show, in your little section, with your images and stuff. So you actually have to figure it out to have complete sentences, but within that 100 words.
Some shows will ask you, once you're accepted, for an artist statement separately. So
yeah,
I mean,
and you have to have it hanging there. But I'm talking about the juring part, to be judged. I'd love to have that. And when they do have that, I generally tend to get in because I know what to say. I mean, I know how to explain my work, because I had it, and I was bad at. Let me tell you something. I was really bad at it until I got it corrected. It was you write something and then somebody explains to you, well, like they edit it for you, give you suggestions, and then you redo it. And it's when you come out with the finished product, it's great. And I'd like more shows to have that out there, so that the people that are looking at it know what they're looking at. The judges.
Right.
You know, the problem with when people talk to me about photographers, they only think about you only go click and that's it. I think
Uh,
I think that the problem with most artists or people with higher education, like Kurt was saying, is like the question you need to ask is what it takes you to press click.
well, here's the thing.
Take
We
the
could look
picture.
at Oscar. We could look at jury images, which you don't have to worry about because you're a photographer. So those are your jury images. But for the rest of us, the jury images, like a sports, okay, exception to the rule is Larry, but a sports photographer might not be a good product photographer, for example. And so, but you know, and a lot of people think they could photograph their own work. Some can. I mean, there's always exceptions to rules in that as well. But in general, you know, there's, you know, everything that's required for a really good jury shot. And so, but we could plainly see that photographers who might photograph other things are not necessarily good product photographers. And I mean, that's a good example of, you know, different skills in just the same medium.
Yeah.
So
Wait. Product photography and jury slide photography are two completely different worlds.
well, I'm calling it product photography.
Because I've seen a lot of artists hire catalog photographers.
Okay.
Those
So even
are
then,
product photographers,
right.
but they have no clue.
Okay. So even the nuances with that. I mean, so my point is you have, you know, across the board 100 photographers, but they're not going to all take good jury images. And it's the point is that as far as, you know, something being an art, you know, the you know, or not looking at photography as art. I mean, you could clearly see there's so many variables just in that one medium. Larry, with exception to Larry, who you happen to be a really good photographer just across the board. And but so I don't know if this makes sense what I'm saying. But the point is that I can't do good jury shots of Barry your ceramics. And you know, so does this make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
same thing with jewelry.
Okay.
Because it needs to be lit in a certain way and the angle
Mhm.
has to be a certain way. And that's the way it is all 3D. You know, the
Right.
angle has to be right, the lighting has to be right, the diffusion of the light has to be right, getting rid of the shadows has to be right. These are all techniques that photographers know that we
Right.
don't know, you know.
Right. Right. And then and something shiny versus something matte. I mean, all of these
Yes,
things.
yes, yeah. The glare off the shiny pieces. It was for me. It was always funny because I'd have these shiny pieces, and you'd see and I would shoot them myself, and you'd see if you look closely, you could see my image in the piece because it would reflect me off the
Right.
piece because it was shiny. So yeah,
Yeah.
The other question that I got is, and this is more me thinking myself, my work, is like a jury with a set of images, and this is, and I don't, you know, they tend to be a little more into the gray side, and then I got some stuff that's more colorful in there also. It's still the same type of style, but uh, it's it's just different. But the thing I keep going in my mind is you you get selected to a show, and then when you walk to the show and you get to the booth of the person, it doesn't look impressive. Like sometimes you go like, how in the hell you got into this show with that body work when you see it in person? And even when you go, I was paying attention to autograph, for example, and that I went to the website to look at the other photographers' work, and I'm looking at the work, and it looks really impressive in the website. And then when you get to the person's booth, you go like, oh, that looks like shit.
But then there's the
Yeah.
opposite too, where you could see pictures of the work and you're like, oh, maybe interesting, but you see it in person and you're blown out of the water.
But that's the reaction you should
That's
get.
a
not the
rare.
opposite.
That's a rarity.
Yeah. It should not-
What Oscar's saying is actually the way it usually is.
you know, so that's just, I just going like a, because I think the I just thinking in general, like if you're a painter, maybe you can do 2 shows a month, 24 shows. You dedicate your time to do that. You probably can squeeze 20 shows in a year. But I just wonder if we just, if the arts is becoming more a product thing than a true fine art show. And I don't know how much that affecting what gets in, what doesn't get in, or under the other stuff that we always wondering about it. But
I think it's so hard to say because every year it's totally different. Also,
I know, but it's still, you know, like I just went to see the website for Cherry Creek, and every single person in that show for 20 photographers, I'm talking only, every single one in there, I know they are good, they deserve to be there. You know, it will be a privilege for me to substitute one of them. You know, that's how highly I think about the people doing the show. I just, that's my take on that.
Are you doing it, Oscar?
I'm waitlisted, and I really doubt that I'm going to get in.
well, don't
Listen,
don't doubt
you'll-
that.
You'll have that experience of that you have at Cherry Creek at Artisphere. And
Yeah.
there's a couple other shows that you're doing that's just as good. You
No,
know,
I know.
as Cherry Creek, so.
I don't even questioning that. I know. It's
Yeah.
just like it's just kind of like and because I see their work in person, most of them, and I know that when you see it, it's going to be impressive. There's only people that I have to say, there's a couple of artists that I know they are really good, but when I see their work, it doesn't look impressive to me. Even I know that they are really good. But
Can I
it's
tell you
not
something
impressive.
about Cherry Creek? Even at Cherry Creek, when I walked around, I made a comment to myself, not a, about like what are they doing here? How'd they get in? So I think every show, even the top shows, has people that aren't that get in. They're not as good. It just
I think the
happens.
only show I've ever done was the first time I did Brookside. When I walked that show, it's like, okay, there is not a single bad artist, or I didn't walk by a single booth and have that thought, how did they get in here?
Yeah, and that's really nice. It's a rarity.
That was a good year too.
I think
Coconut Grove's
of
like
last
that.
year was like that. From when I walked the show, this is 2023, it was every single person that was in there. It was really, really good. I walk out of there like a wow.
Oscar, I think I know what you're getting at, and it would be great to have juries be able to look at, ideally it'd be great to have, jurors walk into your booth like they do when they're judging the show to, decide if you're going to score your booth to get in the show. But it's just not practical, and
I don't
even
think-
submitting more images when we're talking about shows that are, have 1,000 applications, there's a give and take in place.
I understand that. I understand the opposite of that. I just going like I don't know how to put it to you. It's like say that you are doing mostly when you doing the wars, or when you walk the show, like they should go, after the show and really uh, compare what you see when you get out, and probably will push people to do a little bit better at the. It's just like it's the same thing with the booth image. Like we stylize the booth image to be perfect, and I know doesn't matter which medium. Order, I'm going to say order the bill kit and what is the name of the glass guy? Crate. I keep forgetting his name. I only have two people in my head that when I see the booth shot and then I see the booth, it looks almost the same. Most of the time, even including myself in this, the booth shot doesn't look anything like what you see in the art shows. And sometimes what I see in the art shows is like somebody throws spaghetti to the wall and they're filling every single hole because they need something to sell.
I was talking to an artist that did that. And they said they had designed their booth and tried two different designs in their booth, and that when they just kind of had that throw it on the wall like spaghetti, they had much better sales.
I know, and that's because there's two trends of thoughts, and this is the contradiction I was finding between what they ask us to jury with a cohesive body of work and what you do in the booth. Like you want to have your body of work look cohesive in the jury process, right? But in order to sell in your booth,
You have to have a variety.
you have to have variety. You cannot have the same image repeated over and over and over because it doesn't you're only going to appeal one person, even if it's just a subtle thing. So none of the imaging are going to look the same. So how that is cohesive?
Yeah, it's not.
It's a contradiction. What they ask us to do in the jury process is a contradiction what it has to happen in the show to be successful. So it's really hard to follow a reasoning or something to make sense. And the
No, I don't agree, actually. It's like if you jury in with pictures in nature, let's say meadows, lakes, streams, wildflowers, then it would be inappropriate to have couples at a cafe in Paris.
Well, it depends upon how you define cohesive. And I had I did this little tiny pop-up Friday night, which we'll talk about that later. But this couple walks in and the lady's almost like dragging her husband, and she's going, this is the photographer, and her husband's kind of disagreeing, and the wife's going, no, I think this is the guy. It might not be, but I think this is the guy. And they come over to my booth and they ask me about an exhibit I had 10 years ago.
Wow.
I love it.
There was a huge retirement center run by the Masons. And it was, it had all the levels of care, and it had been added on to over the years. So they had a first Friday, and then they would invite a couple artists in, and they would hang stuff in the walls. Well, I did Route 66 images, and cool. I had this one image, and the lady came in and she told me my dad was in the Masonic home, and every day I would go visit him. We'd go for a walk and we'd go down, and there was a bench right across from this photo of yours, and we would sit there and look at the photo. Now,
that's great.
What I had hanging at this event on Friday was church photos, and on the outside, and I had 3 porches kind of on the inside of my setup. And she looked at the church photos, and evidently my style was strong enough that she recognized my work,
Of
you know?
course.
And so to me, that's cohesive. That's a cohesive body of work right there.
That's the ultimate
Right.
compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
Yeah.
And
Did you offer her a card so she could come back in another 10 years?
If I had had the photo with me, I would have given it to her.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think sometimes people take, their definition of cohesive body of work is like, okay, it's not the artist's style, which is what I think it's meant to be, is,
Mhm.
the artist has to have a cohesive style, and they want it to be style, subject matter, time of day, basically 16 different versions of the same image.
Yeah, that's what
That-
that's what I'm trying to understand why they mean with that, because it's really confusing, because there's no way I'm going to be able to do that.
That's
I
not
would
style.
die.
That's
Yeah, but-
repetition. That's not style.
Right,
Style
but here's
is
the thing. A cohesive body of work is one of those meaningless terms that because everybody has their own definition.
I think
Well-
you've explained it. I think you've explained cohesion perfectly, though. It's your eye. And
that's right.
and I do agree with you. It's like, well, I know cohesion when I see it, but there I mean, cohesive means really what you said, your story.
I had and I had the opposite thing happen with a jury. I had images that were all church images. They were all churches. Now, they weren't obviously churches, but they were church images. And I was told that they weren't cohesive enough.
That's a group of people that don't know what they're looking at. Look at, we're talking about the way I learned it. It was called form concept. It's how you see things, and that's something that's developed over time. That's what makes you a professional. That's what makes you good. If you do what you do long enough, because when you start out, you're all over the place. You're doing one of these and one of these and one of these. Eventually, it narrows down, and you actually do your work. It's how you see it. If you're really good, and you only get really good by doing it a lot, you almost can't help it that your style is your style, and
Right.
that's what we're talking. I think that's how we want to be defining this.
I
As
think
opposed
too many times people are defining subject matter as style.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
well,
yeah.
that-
So
yeah.
I have another example of cohesive work. I was asked to make a letter for a metal studio, and a whole bunch of artists, jewelers, metalsmiths were asked. And if you look at the letters, you can see, if you know the people, you can see who made which one, because it's totally in their style. So even though, I don't make letters in my work, so I think that's similar to Court what you're saying. And so, there could be some exhibition where we want all artists to interpret, X, right? And so, we can all, even with different mediums, do that from our purview. But also, and I think you just said that, Court, that sometimes cohesion is defined as the subject matter rather than the vision.
Yeah, and I think that's a mistake. But
It is a
again,
mistake.
there's nobody to say, and maybe we should start asking shows, or maybe we should maybe some shows should include in their jury instructions is they should talk about what is considered a cohesive body of work. And it's not necessarily subject matter, it's style and technique, and
You should be able to see that in the booth shot, but it isn't necessarily always the case. When you put up 4 images or 3 images, that's all you're doing is 3 images. That it might not be as cohesive as you're saying, but really you should be able to see that in the booth shot. And I think that's where the judging should be. as an indication. To me, I don't even like that how the importance of the boost shot has become. And personally, I think everybody should be required to take their boost shot at a show, not set it up outside of the show, because I've always done it like that, you know.
I would
And
love,
maybe
I would love that if that was the case.
and maybe I'm suffering. Maybe it's one of the reasons why I don't get in, because I shoot it at the show. But to me, that's the most honest. We're talking about integrity and honesty. That's the most honest. Shooting your booth, your work in your booth. This is how it looks. This is how you're presenting it at an event.
My booth shot is set up exactly the same way I set it up at the show.
Me, yeah, and I would too. So I take it in the morning. Now Larry had to take out my name tag and the coffee cup out of it when he fixed mine. I didn't even notice it. But yeah, you know, it doesn't matter whether I put it out here in the parking lot or I shoot it at the show before the show starts. It's going to be the same booth, and I think that's really important. If you're going to judge it, that's, you know, I mean, what is the value in having, you know, if you're going to judge a booth shot to see how whether you fit in to the show and then set it up artificially. Shoot it at
I
a
agree.
show.
I
You should have
agree,
to
because
have
the
it at a
whole
show.
point is basically seeing that the artist is showing the work that they're jurying in with.
Yeah, yeah.
The only problem though is some people, that's the first time they're doing it, so they don't have a booth shot.
Right, but I mean, I think, you know, the exception is that they could just set something up at home, you
Hey,
know, I mean, because
listen.
we want to encourage new people.
I think the shows that we do, they're not first timers. There's not a whole lot of first timers at the better shows. And I think
Well,
that
but no, you can't make that assumption. I mean, the very first show I did, we didn't need a booth shot.
yeah, me neither.
So-
You didn't need booth shots.
But
Well, I think
I
one of the
don't,
reasons I do mine at home is because I am extremely particular about the light. And I have found that it shows either when I have time to do it and take the things down and prep the booth, you know, take the stuff out, take my sign down, the light sucks and the light's great when it's the middle of the show, things like
Yeah.
that. So I set it up at home in the
Yeah.
right direction, and so I can control the
Yeah.
light.
Good
mhm.
point. I should think about that.
Yeah, we usually wait till I mean, there's one, as Sun Valley is the best place for a booth shot because it's a really slow show. It's a good show, but you know, it's like the first day Eric will kind of look at the light and then we'll determine what time of day. And so it could be at 4 PM at that show.
Well, I always do my booth shot, always winds up being cloudy day towards the end of the day, or
Yeah.
no earlier than mid-afternoon. And my booth faces east. And so that puts the sun above or, you know, closer to overhead.
Yeah.
Depending on what time of year, it's either off to the left or the right
Yeah.
of the booth. But, you know, on a cloudy day, then I've
Mhm.
got nice light and I have nice even light on the work inside. And I don't have one wall that's way brighter than another wall.
Right.
And I can take my time. You know, I can set it up. I can set the tripod up and leave it there and go in and mess with it on the computer and then go back out and, you know, make some changes and go back and forth and spend a couple hours doing it.
Mhm.
Good point.
This all the films on this is over 36 films.
So I think that's, you know, when you talk about being, you know, perfect with a booth shot, it's not having how the stuff inside is laid out as much. It's just a matter of getting, you know, everything evenly lit so that at a quick glance, everything looks good and you don't
Yeah,
have one
but
side.
you want to see. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, one side that's too bright, one side that's too dark, you know, or you're distracted by, you know, bright sunlight coming in the top, whatever.
But you want to see the stuff in the booth too.
Right. But the
Make
stuff
sure
in the
it's the
booth
same-
needs to be, you know, the inside of the booth needs to be lit evenly. So you don't have, you know, one really bright wall and one really dark wall.
Right.
and it needs to be, you know, eye level and crop. So you're cropping out, you know, yes, there's a tent and you can see what kind of tent it is, but you know, you're not looking at, you know, the whole rafter structure of the tent.
Amen.
Hey, Bonnie.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Bonnie.
I lost track of time.
That's all right. You missed the best part.
Oh, great.
Oh, all of you will enjoy this. I got to tell you about my show Friday night.
Okay.
So I get there, and this is in a school that was built in the 20s. I think it was probably an elementary school that the school district sold. And there's like I was in the gym, and there's like a yoga studio. So there's big bright murals painted on all the walls, and you know, people were kind of spread out through the building and out front. And so I go in and I sign up, and they give me this piece of paper that's obviously printed off of a spreadsheet. And they want my name, my address, my phone number, and my sales tax number.
Yeah.
And because I just made some changes, I have a new sales tax number, which I don't have yet. So she goes, "Oh, just put your social security number down."
Yeah.
Uh-uh.
No, that's right.
And I just stopped. And
Oh, yeah.
I said, I just blurted out, "I'm not doing that." And she kind of
Yeah.
was taken aback. And I said, you know, I've got my sales tax, my numbers on the way. I filed it with the state. I'm waiting for them to mail it to me. And so she goes, "Oh, here's your Kansas allows you to do single event filings." And so that was like the first shock. And she was walking off. There were two people in front of me. So the lady that was at the beginning of the line filled the form out, put her information down, and then the lady running it took her and walked off and left the sheet of paper laying there for the next guy to fill out. And so anybody could have walked up, you know, with their phone and gone click and had all this information.
Yeah. Well, the important one is the social security number.
Yeah. And
Well, it gives
anytime like a show, if they ask for the social security number, I just put on request because
So
you don't know where
then-
it's sitting.
If I win an award.
Yeah. Yes.
I
Yeah, but it
go
has
in,
to be over a certain anyway.
yeah, I go in and I set up and struggle with a couple things, but I really like this setup that I did. It's going to work really good for real small things like this. And I get it all figured out and I get set up, and I'm in the corner, and there's, let's see, there's only like 6 or 7 of us in this one room. And all the other people in the room are like mid to low end kind of craft stuff. There was a lady next to me that does, you know, tumblers, and lady on the other side had probably the nicest stuff in the room, and she did sewed some bibs and burp blankets and things for babies, and it was all really nicely done. And then there was a couple other people, the lady that did some things out of gourds, and you know, it was well done, but it just was kind of, you know, weekend at the flea market kind of stuff. So the lady that runs it walks into the room, goes all the way around the room, stops at every booth except mine. Not once. She did it
Twice.
2 or 3 times, at least twice, I think maybe 3 times
Oh,
during the evening.
intimidated.
And so it's just like, you know what? First of all, this isn't my crowd because I had 0 sales.
But
And the lady next
question,
to the lady next
question, were you the only male?
to there were some other men there, yeah.
Yeah.
The lady next to me with the really nice sewed stuff, who was also a photographer, sold $12 worth of stuff to the lady promoting the show, and that's all she sold.
Oh God.
And she was disappointed. And so but the lady came, the lady and husband came in that had seen my work before, and then another guy came in, this really big, tall guy came in, and African-American gentleman, and we were talking about stuff and, talking about telling stories and talking to people, and had a really good conversation with him and kind of convinced him to, the lady in the booth next to me, the two of us kind of ganged up on him and, said, you need to, go do this. And we told him to go Google, these different things online. And, he goes, well, I need to know what kind of camera. And we just both pointed to a cell phone. I said, you have one in your hand. So his friend came back. I mean, he spent probably 20 minutes talking to us, and his friend came back and, he tells his friend, okay, this is what we're doing tonight. We're going to go take pictures. We're going to go talk to people and take pictures. And he said, people always see him and, here's this big African-American male and he's intimidating. And, they always ask him about, well, what sports do you play? The typical questions. I said, what you might do, kind of as something different to kind of play off of that is take all your photos from your eye level, especially your portraits. So you're kind of looking down at the people. If, this is a big thing to you that people are always talking about how tall you are and everything, is to, maybe kind of shoot down. He said, well, I know that makes people feel uncomfortable. He said he likes to get down to their level and talk to them. I said, I understand, but, still, as if that's part of who you are and a story you want to tell, is take it from the higher angle. So
Good advice.
that was my Friday evening. And luckily the loud, obnoxious music was far enough away. I just kind of heard it in the background.
Sounds like a perfectly fine experiment,
I feel for you, Court, because I've been in that situation before, and let's just say I didn't handle it very well.
Hey, it was, it cost me $40.
I think you should do it again.
Oh, well, I'm doing a different one in 2 weeks.
Yeah, you should keep doing it. You're going to hit a gold mine.
I want to do one, and I want to drag Oscar with me.
Oh, I'm not going with you.
Hey,
It's not happening.
I got to try out my
wait a
setup,
minute.
my new setup, and I got it put together, and I kind of figured some things out and figured some things I need to do, and so it was worth the $40 I spent.
Hey,
it sounds
Oscar.
very useful.
Yeah.
Oscar, you say that, but let's go back to Fort Myers, where we tag team and we each sold them that couple pieces in it, and it was great. And the pieces went together and they were so nice. They were really great. So when you say that, the experience does not match your distaste for doing something like that. Just saying.
Sacrifices have to be made. That's the only thing.
That's right.
Oh
Hey.
my God.
Can I have 30 seconds to say something to Oscar that's totally different? Hey, my new favorite baseball player, Ellie De La Cruz, hit an inside the park home run and a 425 blast home run in the same game. Okay, that's it. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay.
Oscar's a Cincinnati Reds fan. Ellie De La Cruz is a 6'5" shortstop for Cincinnati. So so that's why I brought that up.
So Bonnie, we was talking before you jump into it. It will be interesting to see your take. We was talking about the importance of the concept or the meaning of creating your work over the technique. Then I feel like most of the shows we put some work more based on technique than the combination of both as one.
I don't understand the question.
Bonnie, basically it's more emphasis on the process than the finished product.
Where is there more emphasis?
in
Jury.
jury.
More emphasis is on the finished product.
But Oscar seems to, Oscar was talking about it. It seemed that there's a lot of times there's more emphasis on the process.
So we're asked for materials and technique,
Yeah,
not
as a-
inspiration.
Yeah,
Yeah,
as opposed to inspiration or concept behind what they're doing. There's not really room
Well-
in the application for that.
Oscar, in your artist statement, you can put anything,
no,
technique and all that. Not all shows even read that.
no, I know that. I just going like my concern was that talking to, this is more like the peers viewing process. It's like people go to the, for example, I go to the booth for somebody that I saw an autograph, and I saw the artwork and the setting image they promoting autograph, and then you go to the show and see the booth, and you go like I'm disappointed. It doesn't look as good as in person. And I start to wonder, even with people that they are really, really good in the industry, you see when you get to the booth, you expecting something and doesn't resonate with, and I think I'm pretty much open-minded about every single medium. Like but sometimes I start looking more at the show more closely, and what I seeing artists producing is more product than art, if that makes sense.
Yep, that makes sense.
So I just wonder if that's something that, if it's just a fault or us as an artist producing work after producing work, then just start to focusing more on what we're supposed to do. And I just wonder that's part of what the shows are declining, because we're not putting an effort in producing the best work out, and we're just producing just to have something in the wall or on the case, whatever medium you are. So
Well, it's interesting because when I got close to a big show and I just started producing product, not my big, wonderful pieces that made me feel good, but just, holy shit, I have to have something in my cases.
yeah,
Oh, it was still my work. I mean, it was
I know.
Yeah.
Actually, I know exactly what you mean. Like I've earlier in the year spent my time, even if I'm finishing them now, I spent my time on those pieces, because when you're just doing the work part, like this bracelet, which I'm very excited to be at this point, so I'll have it for Brookside. But right now, this is just the work part. It's the rest, the layout of the stones, all that's done, and now it's just about, oh, I need more of, this type of earring where, I sell a lot, and so yeah,
right.
yeah,
See,
because
It's the product.
my thing is, I want my small pieces to be, or less complex pieces to be, just as good as the big ones. I want to be just as satisfied. And in some cases, the small ones are nicer than the big ones because they're easier to do because they're smaller.
well, and they're less expensive, one would presume, that
They are less
if it's less
expensive.
labor. Right. So, and it's good to have a variety of price points.
Yeah. I don't think
So,
I don't do any less labor. Well, a little less labor.
When I say, I'm making product, that's what it feels like, because I'm
Yeah.
just trying to get things done for the show.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
they may end up being some of my best pieces, but
Yeah.
while I'm doing it, it's product.
Yeah. I try not to have that feeling.
Well,
It's
when
tough.
you're
you know,
trying to do too much,
and I
Yeah.
understand the photographer has an advantage in that area, because we can always put the same image over and over and over. I'm not saying, but even to certain point, like right now, I'm looking at my
Ready?
booth and I'm trying to figure out
People figure out
what
we're
I can
doing.
substitute the water lilies out, because
I
that
don't know
doesn't
what,
do anything for me anymore. But
and I'm
I
just,
keep it in the wall because they're
yeah,
set.
we didn't take anything in. We said we were gonna look for it, blah, blah, blah. Just.
Hey,
tell them
iPhone, can
what-
you yourself?
Mark,
It's fixed.
Thank
uh,
you.
so that's the thing that I was thinking. Also, we was talking about Cole described it better than me. It was like what is cohesive work in my mind is people think that cohesive work is all the images need to look the same, and to me it's more in a style, because I'm running into that problem in my head, because it's my style of work, but it's the images are totally different. And then when you go to your booth and know all the images, this goes to everybody, not every single image can look the same, they all have to be different. But some people, when they see the booth, doesn't, in their head doesn't look cohesive. It looks like somebody throw spaghetti in the wall and see what stuck. So
Well, and we were talking too, Bonnie, about sometime everybody has their own different version of what a cohesive body of work, and sometimes it gets carried a little too far where everything's got to be the same subject matter, and not just the artist's personal style, but you've got to have the same subject matter and blah 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 for it to be a cohesive body of work.
Okay, so for a jeweler, a cohesive body of work can just be similar stones in all the pieces if you use stones. Or, I mean, they're just,
Or elements more so.
yes. It's
But-
so hard to explain what a cohesive body of work is.
Right, but see, it's also one of those terms that's almost meaningless at times because everybody has their own opinion of it. You know, it is the artist's style on kind of one end, and on the other end, everything's got to have the same subject matter in it, and be the same style, and be the same general color palette.
Blech! How boring.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
that's the way some people. That's what some people think a cohesive body of work is.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't have to be all of those things. It can only be one of those things.
Right. No, it doesn't have to be. But what I'm saying is there are people, judges, that think that.
Yeah, I wonder about that when I'm picking images, because let's say I like to have a teapot. Let's say I have 4 images, and there's a teapot. There's got to be a teapot in there, but I have 3 vessels and a teapot, and I think, would it be better to have 2 teapots and 2 vessels, or I'm okay with
no.
the 3 vessels and 1 teapot?
I
How
mean,
many teapots are in your booth
A few.
versus how?
What's in my booth is commensurate with the amount that I sell.
Right.
I used to sell I used to sell 6 to 8 teapots at a show, raku teapots, as sculptural teapots. Now I'm lucky if I sell 2. I thought so I don't sell that many, so I don't put that many out. Wait, let me rephrase that. I don't dedicate that space to the pieces that I sell less of.
Yeah.
it seems like you could have vessels of varied sizes or shapes and
I
a
do.
teapot. I mean, because your work all, definitely looks cohesive. However, here's a consideration. What if you try putting more teapots out? So I never sold a lot of rings, and then I got these ring displays where I could have 5 rings in each one. So now I
Yeah.
have 10 rings in my cases, and
Now
I
you're
sell
selling
many more rings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Of
think
course, they
about
take
that.
up a lot. They take up a lot less space, but
Yeah.
Well, Barry, I will tell you that on your jury images, Allison talks about different sizes. You can't necessarily tell which ones are big and which ones are little. You can once you see a similar thing in your booth.
Yeah.
But it doesn't jump out saying I'm small and I'm
Yeah.
big.
Well, I like that actually.
How about I'm a
I use
little
that to my
teapot.
advantage.
I mean, there are people who
Well-
collect teapots specifically.
I
Mhm.
know, and I sell to those people.
Folks, I gotta go. It's been nice this
Go
afternoon.
to class.
I gotta go get ready for class.
Have
I've been on the
fun.
road all day.
Hey,
Happy,
Court, thanks a lot.
happy studying.
Oh yeah. We had a great time. My mom had never seen a total eclipse. So yesterday was her first one, and the place that I'd picked kind of out in the country was by a church. The reverend at the church has a degree in astronomy, and
Oh,
the
wow.
church had a little display set up he brought out two of his big telescopes, and they said, "Oh yeah, there's food in the fellowship hall. Just go help yourself, and the restrooms are in there." And it was great. My mother loved it. So my mother and aunt loved it. So
That's
Oh.
nice.
That's awesome.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
we'll see everybody later.
Yeah.
Bye.
later.
Bye.
Bye.
So Bonnie, I want a lesson on, it doesn't have to be now, but I want to be a judge at shows. I haven't judged a show in a long time, and I want to be a judge. I want people to pick me to judge or call me or whatever it takes.
To jury or to judge?
Judge, when people apply to shows and
Oh,
you're
that's
picking who's in the
jurying.
show. Jury, yeah, I want to be on the jury. Or either way, hey, let me walk around to the show and give the prizes out. Either way, or both,
I've always kind of wanted to do that. Well, I did it at Krazel, but
This
they don't
year?
let you give out, no, a few years ago, but they don't let you give out the awards. Somebody else from the art center gives out the
yeah.
award. But I wanted to kind of be there going, yay, because there were a whole bunch of judges.
Yeah.
Oh, well, if somebody's looking for a juror, I will pass your name along, and then you have to tell them your qualifications and so on, and see if they want you.
That's true. I was thinking of sending them my skills, all my paperwork beforehand, like sending to a bunch of shows and say, hey, like I want a jury and this is I'm qualified,
Well, how are you at jewelry?
Not bad. Well, okay,
Who
listen.
who would you pass your name on to? This is the whole thing that gets me in the claw.
I don't know.
I don't believe that art fair artists should be the jurors because they know everybody. How is that
Oh, yeah, that's
impartial? Even
right. That's
consciously
your
or
thing.
consciously or subconsciously, human nature will have you go to your favorite people. I mean,
See,
I think the whole
no
system
problem.
is screwed once you start using people that know the other people.
So wait a minute. So what do you use? Architects? Come on. Or better yet.
Sure, use local gallery owners, local
Oh God. Listen.
art.
You
That's
never
who
want
it used to be.
again.
Now it's show
No.
directors and art fairs. They know
No,
everybody.
it used to be museum curators.
Yes.
Museum curators, interior
Yes.
designers. You could go through a whole litany of people you could use that have no knowledge of who the artists are.
I know what you're
seen
saying.
Have you seen the buy-sell jewelry that they let in?
But it
Yeah.
shouldn't be up to the jury people to figure out who's buy-sell or not. The show should do a little research after they accept the jewelers. I mean, it's so convoluted and ridiculous.
Well,
That you shouldn't depend on somebody to look at 3 pictures and say, oh, that person's buy-sell. That's not right. That's not research. That's not proof.
that's not how it's done.
Well,
They-
then why are you using Okay, then who just said, would you not want a jeweler to be a juror? Because they use the excuse that the jewelers
No.
will know what buy-sell is. I've heard
That's
that
not-
excuse used many
Okay.
times.
That's not what we said.
Okay. Sure, use a local jeweler that's not an art fair jeweler.
Oh, somebody
Yeah.
who does wedding rings at a Zales
see, you-
furniture store?
No, somebody that owns a jewelry store that's actually an artist. There's a lot of those people out there. There's not just veiled jewelers. Yeah. Here in Indianapolis, I can name 25 jewelers that own their own stores and make their own work.
Yeah. The problem with that is they're also jurying play and paintings and everything else. You know,
Not
at least
necessarily. A lot of times you have jewelers that simply jury the jewelry, and potters that only jury the pottery. A lot of shows do that.
The only show
Very
that I know about
rarely.
that is Carmel.
look at there's going to
You
be
say
a
very
bias.
rarely, but
Listen, there's no such thing as a fair jury. Every
so
jury
why do we
is
even
gonna
use
be
them? Why do we use a
biased.
jury system? Why don't we just do invites? Why don't you send in an app? The show director looks at the app, invites who the hell they want. That seems a lot more fair, and it seems a lot more ethical to me.
But wait a minute, that's a problem too, because what if you don't get along with that person? What if that person, okay, what
Then
if you make a you do the
don't
show, you make
waste
a
your money
suggestion.
sending the show.
Listen, it doesn't matter how it's juried or who juries it. There's always going to be a bias, and it's not going to be fair. On the other hand, it's the same set of criteria for everybody, so that unfairness reaches out to everybody. So they're all inherently unfair and fair at the same time. If that makes any sense.
I would agree. I would agree with what you're saying. I just think that this antiquated system that we all put in jury to get in shows was developed way before the internet, way before you could actually look someone up and see who they are.
I
Why
think they
aren't
should pay
using
us.
a system that does that?
I don't think we should have to pay a jury fee. I think they should pay us to do it. And then, like I
I
have
agree too.
two shows on the same
What
day.
other business?
Huh? Every other business does it that way. Hey, X is offering me $200 to do their show, and X and Z is offering me $100 to do their show. I think I'll do the 200, the one that's 200. Let's take golf. There's the Saudi Arabia tour. There's the PGA tour, which has been forever, and you have the new one, and they jumped over because they got paid more money. Every industry, they pay to do the show, to do their event. So why not that? I don't believe that should be that way, but I'm just saying this as a counter to what you're saying. The system is inherently bad because we're paying for the right to get rejected, basically.
Well, yeah. I mean, what other business do you actually pay money to get a job offer? The only one I can think of would be like acting. And there where you have to go pay a talent agent to go out and find you a job. But where else do you pay an application fee for the opportunity to work? Yeah.
There has to be some criteria. There has to be some like weeding out or weeding in the best people. There has to be a process with it. Otherwise, you're going to have all this buy-sell stuff. It'd be worse than it is now.
Well, I think every show, once the jury is finished, it should be upon the show director or the show staff to go down the list of who was accepted and look at their website. You can really quickly pull out the buy-sell if you do something like that.
Hey, well, not necessarily, but you'd be surprised at how many show directors alter their the people that got in. I'm not saying the people that got juried in are being juried out, but it's possible because I know people that weren't juried in that actually get in the show. And they actually, if you look at the fine print on some of these applications, it says the director has a right to alter the the artist for to balance. They say balance the show. They reserve the right to do that.
Yeah, and I guarantee with jewelry, every single show balances the category because they want so many silver artists, so many gold artists, so many beads artists, and they're not all going to be the top people who are picked
Mark, you're breaking up. We're not getting much.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in my car.
Okay, well, that was better.
Yeah. Okay.
So you know what, Mark? It behooves everybody here to be as charming as you can to the director. You know,
Payoff
Hey,
with everybody. You know,
Hey,
the problem is,
John Galbo used to fly across the country and take show directors out to lunch.
yeah. Hey, whatever works, you know.
Yeah, why not? I agree.
He gave
I mean,
gifts.
it's about business.
You know, we're joking about that, but you know, they could,
the problem that I have, and there's something that I can't rack my head around it, and if is that when you go to the national shows, the big national shows, you always get to see the same people. 75% of the artists are the same in every single show. And that's why
Yeah.
when you're looking at from the outside looking in, it raises concerns or wonder how is that even possible. It doesn't mean that you don't think that the person doesn't deserve to be there, but it makes you wonder what that person is doing to get to that many national shows top rated. Because if the jurors are different in every single show, how that's even possible to happen? And that's the thing that the best way to explain when I think Mark is concerned about it is that you see the same people in every single national show most of the time, and you racking your head and wonder how the hell that's even possible.
Okay,
Because
can I
it
give
still
you
not
an
happen.
example? You did, Oscar, you took pictures at Coconut Grove last year, and one of them was of Bill Kids.
Yeah, but Bill is this, there's a couple of people
hold
that I
on.
know.
wait, let Bonnie finish.
Yeah.
Okay, so you took a picture of his booth.
Mhm.
I don't know that, I haven't seen his booth in the last few years. If you took his work and that killer booth, why is he not going to get into everything?
I understand that.
I don't care if it's your local plumber who's jurying.
No,
You
I
know,
understand
he's
that.
going to get in.
I understand
Okay,
that,
so
but it
you
should
got
not
jewelry
be.
that looks like walk-in jewelry style jewelry
I kind of
that you can buy at the jewelry store.
What are you saying?
Oh,
Here, Paul has
Well,
something to say.
we're just
Well-
riding in the car.
What were
wait.
you saying,
But
Paul?
Well,
Bonnie,
I think based
yeah.
on what she just said, that I don't. If you're talking about a painter or a photographer, I'm not sure who you're talking about, but
Clay,
let's say paint. Okay, so if you take a painter and they're at the top of their game and they're you just walk in and it's like unbelievable. Yeah, why wouldn't they get in every show? Okay, let's take a jeweler for instance. A high end diamond gold jeweler makes everything by hand. Looks like you could walk into a jewelry store and buy his jewelry. It's that good.
Well,
Why would you not get in every art show?
there
Why is the
are
girl?
Hold on. That's two
No.
different things. Walking into a commercial place.
there are people that are at the top of their game. And they get into all the top shows.
There's plenty of people that are not where they're not any better than any of the other people that are at quote unquote top of their game, yet they get into every one and other people don't get in at all. In fact, I know people in Clay that are great and they've stopped applying because they couldn't get into any of the good shows. And they're really, really good from a Clay standard, from somebody who actually knows,
who knows Clay?
Yeah, but I'm saying like as far as like a gold and diamond jeweler, because it's gold and diamond, it's like
So
you
what?
get pushed aside because you could look at some of these big shows, they don't have gold and diamonds. They have
Well, you have to
sterling
read
silver.
you have to read the prospectus of the show. Often they want an artist's vision. And so if it's traditional gold jewelry,
No. I'm not saying it's traditional
Just the
gold
material.
jewelry. I'm talking
That's
about
what I thought you meant.
No, I'm talking about the quality of the work. It's very artistic, that it is diamonds and gold, and you could sell it at any jewelry store based on like some of the jewelry you see at shows. You're not going to walk into a jewelry store and buy that. It's crafty. and it's sterling silver. Yeah, there's some high-end sterling silver you can buy at jewelry stores. But
And
it's
some
like
of
if
it,
you're a gold,
some of it is
you use
art.
gold and diamonds. But if you use gold and diamonds, then you can perfect a piece that looks like it's, you know,
No, see,
professionally
you're making that mistake of technique. The technique is slick enough to be in a commercial jewelry store. I don't
No,
want any of those
no.
people.
I'm
I don't want
talking
any of
about-
those people in
I
Let
do
me-
know,
let me-
excuse me,
I want to define this. Wait a minute. I think what we're saying, is when you reach a level where you're master, when you're a craftsman that's so good that you could sell at any level in the jewelry market, but you're
only
making
men,
your own
excuse me,
design.
only men? You said craftsmen, not women?
Oh, come on.
Craft person,
that's a
whatever.
term, Allison.
Yeah,
that's
don't,
just a
don't,
term.
no,
Whatever.
don't come on
I'm
me, don't come on
65
me,
years
because
old. I'm
Well,
65
okay.
years old. I've been
Okay,
craftsman my
you're
whole life. But
I'm
regardless
older
of
than
that,
you.
craft
I'm older
person-
than you, so.
Okay, stop with politics.
Yeah, craft person, when they're at the top of their game and they can do anything in that genre, that's technique.
Like
Now,
a
when the
painter.
person drills a hole in a rock and puts it on a piece of leather and they get in the show, but the person who's at the top of the craft doesn't get in the show, how is that possible?
It's
But you
taste.
can look at a painter and say, oh, that painter is the best painter out there. They should get in every show.
I
Okay.
have seen, excuse me, I have seen gold granulation jewelers I think there's one in Cherry Creek this year. I have seen high-end gold jewelers, you know, I could name names, but maybe they don't want to be named, that
Yeah, we're trying.
definitely have their own vision in like St. Louis Art Fair, in you know, a whole bunch of art fairs. There's this guy from Florida.
I've looked and I've seen what jewelers get in. There's not much diamonds and gold, especially in St. Louis.
But the thing is, it's not going to be all diamonds and gold. But I use
That's
diamonds
okay.
and gold, and my work
I would
isn't
just like to
traditional.
see. I'd like to see, you know, at least a quarter of it, maybe an eighth of it, diamonds and gold.
But it's really up to the show to carry out what vision they want.
Okay,
That has nothing to do with it.
It's up to the jurors.
Then they should.
It should be up to the
in the
jurors.
prospectus, it should be, we prefer to have crafty looking jewelry, not diamonds and gold. You know, don't apply, basically. Because
Listen.
I thought it was supposed to be an unbiased.
I thought it was
jury.
the technique.
But
I
saying the
wanna
word
see the
crafty,
technique.
wait, saying the word crafty is pretty judgmental, though. So
Depends on
well,
your
yes,
East Coast
you can
or
use
West Coast.
alternative materials, and you know, that's not necessarily crafty. You could use all kinds of materials. We're not required to use diamonds and gold to call it jewelry,
But
whether
we're
you
talking
agree
about
or not. I mean,
But you know,
Technique
this is the
what I thought we
problem.
were talking about.
Wait, everybody.
So I did gold and diamonds for the first many, many years of my career. I switched and did mixed metals with 24 karat. I used, up until my last pieces, I used golden stones, but they were along with sterling. Would a jewelry store want them? No, but all the art galleries wanted them. I wholesaled to galleries and did extremely well. I was not going after the jewelry store crowd.
Yeah.
That's
Hey, here's the difference.
not me.
You could see the hand part in your work, Bonnie, and in these jewelry stores, you're just seeing this finished technique thing. And in the art world, that's considered lacking in concept, lacking in the artistic part.
But
It's
that's the
too
problem that I
dry.
was telling
It's
you.
not.
The very at the beginning, that's the problem that I have.
Yeah.
When you jury to a show, they're asking you technique. That's the emphasis of the show. It's technique. They don't talk about the concept. The concept is a secondary thing, especially when you're jurying. When you talk to other artists going around the shows, walking the show, it's all about the technique. They don't care about the concept.
That's what I was hearing. I was hearing people say it's technique, technique, technique. Well, when you see someone that's bead setting diamonds in lines and flush mounting square stones and fabricating pieces as opposed to casting them, that's all technique. But
Yeah.
that never gets transferred to the juror.
No,
If it's gold and it's diamond, all of a sudden it's
Production.
commercial.
it's considered production, but it's artistic. So how can you say an artist that uses gold and diamonds is production and an artist that uses sterling silver isn't?
It shows hand work. When you
There's
say
nothing
hand
to-
work, Barry,
The material
When you
has
say
nothing
that,
to do
I
with
think-
it.
I
Yeah,
think about
material-
craft. When it looks like it was made by hand, to me, then it's a craft.
Yeah.
When it looks professionally done, like by a master, then it's a masterpiece of work.
They're
And there's
called
a
Well,
difference
craft
between
Totally
fairs.
back.
master
You
work.
have that totally backwards. It's a masterpiece of work when you can see the hand part of it. And you know what? You're expressing the United States, the American image of what art is, but not in Asia, not in Europe. It's totally different. They're way more evolved. It's all about the hand and how you're doing it. And that's the biggest thing with clay. Let me tell you something. There's a lot of really great people in the world that would never get into an art fair, and they're way better than the potters that are doing art fairs. And it really bugs me. Okay. I wasn't going to get upset,
Mark,
but you know.
Yeah.
Mark, I have some good
Yeah.
news for you.
What's
The amount of jewelers applying to art fairs has dropped off dramatically.
Yeah, I'm
Paint-
one of them.
Painting, well, painting is the new hot
Is the new
category.
high one? That's awesome. But
It evolves.
I've slowed down. I'm applying to only a dozen shows this year.
That's
Yeah,
good
you
news.
said you were
instead of
gonna,
half. Yeah. Normally I would do 25 maybe a year. This year
Oh.
maybe 12.
yeah.
Wow, I could never do, I mean, I did, I think 10 last year and it was too many.
I did
That's a lot of
16.
shows.
I
I
did
couldn't
16.
find enough.
Wow.
I was exhausted for a month. I did 16 and I had to
I couldn't
sleep
make-
for a month.
Well,
I couldn't make
can't
enough
make
work.
enough jewelry. Yeah, I
That's-
can't.
and I
make-
could-
But wait a minute. But wait a
Me
minute.
neither.
Wait.
Out there doing 40 shows a year.
Every one of you, do you have someone that does all your applications for you, does all your paperwork for you, does all
Not
your
me.
travel arrangements for you? Well,
Not
I do. I
me.
have Paula. I have my wife, and she does
Yes.
everything I don't have to do, so I can sit on the bench.
You
Well, I
are
do
a
all
very
that.
lucky man.
If you had someone that did all of those things for you, you could probably do more shows.
Paula, you are a saint.
Yeah. I know. I do work harder than he does. I'm telling you. he has all the fun because he just gets to make it all.
Well, and she also helps set up the booth and helps us drive to the show.
okay.
You know, she does
Paula,
all those things.
Yeah.
Paula, you need a raise.
I was going to ask if she's well
Kind of
paid.
hard when you work for free.
Wait a minute. He's the boss. I'm just a talent. He's the boss.
Well, Paula, I hope you get the deductions too.
Yeah. Well, I just had to chime in because I've been out in the business world, and so I know how business works. And really, this is probably the worst business plan for a business is doing art shows.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yes,
Because
that's
you
true.
know, you have no control of your destiny because you have no control of what shows you're going to get in. When you
Yep.
do get in the shows, you have no control of the weather.
Right.
You have no control of your booth placement. So yeah, I think it's a pretty bad business
I
But
know.
it's fun.
model. but
I
is
say it
fun,
all the
and,
time.
you know, we do make
And why-
money. But
and why am I
think
doing
the
it?
thing that- Yeah, because there's something about it that you like, I guess. But I think that what bothers me over the years and seeing and applying for these shows that, I've seen some of the work that gets in, and it's like, I've been with Mark for over 30 years. I know what he does. He's extremely talented.
God,
And I've
you need a medal.
seeing the response that he gets from people that buy the jewelry. And people come to the art shows to buy diamonds and gold, and it's something different than they're going to see in a jewelry store. And
Yes.
the very
Yeah.
first show that we did, was Broderville Art Fair, which used to be a very good art fair. put on by the Art League here in Indianapolis. Mark went to those classes when he was in high school. So when it came later in life, he decided he wanted to give back, started teaching classes. And if you're faculty, then you could become, you could get into the festival without
automatic. Yeah.
So we thought that was his very first festival. So we thought, oh, we'll try it. Well, he went in and talked to the art director lady. Was she an art director?
She was a artist liaison that was supposed to help you with your career.
And he had a box of maybe like 25 pieces that he had made, just sticking them in the back in a box, not really knowing what he was going to do with them. And he thought, well, let me just do a booth. And so we did the festival. Well, actually, before she took a look at his work, and because he took some pieces in and showed her, and she looked at him and she said, no, you won't make any money in an art festival. I recommend you don't do it. Well, we did the show. Mark got all discouraged, and I said, no, I've seen high-end jewelry at art shows before. You need to do it. And so we did it. We did really well, and then that was just pretty much
the first piece that sold was $2,500.
But I think that's kind of the attitude. I think that's kind of the attitude in the art festival world. In some shows, they see diamonds and gold, and they think, oh, it's production. People won't buy that. We need to keep this, affordable jewelry.
Or they don't know how it's made.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was going to say, they don't know how it's made.
Right.
They don't know how it's made, and so they think that you are a buy-sell.
So here's the thing that I would say. I would say to you, your little statement that you have other people read it, because I think that when people look at jury jewelry, they often don't know what they're looking at, which but just think more about your statement, because I think the word fabrication, I don't even think people understand what that means, hand fabricated. But I do see in shows, that there's a variety of jewelry, whether it's good or not, table, but from price points, very high end to really clever, inexpensive work, maybe made of recycled materials, and everything in between. So, it's not going to be 25% high end gold jewelry at an art fair, I think, but I do see it, and including gold granulation. I think gold granulation jewelers have it hard because a show, I'm just guessing, I have no inside knowledge, but I think a show might only want, sort of like black and white photography artists, they might just want one granulation jeweler, and others.
And this is my point exactly. So why are we doing this silly jury system that then you balance the category afterwards based on the type of work and based on how much it sells for? Why don't they just invite who they want?
No, as a juror, I don't care what it sells for.
Right. The price should not be considered.
But as the show director, once you receive the jury results, you do, and you want to have a balance in the category. I want you to have a balance in the category. So if you pick the people with the best technique, and those people were all the high-end jewelers, let's say, because they've reached the technique level where they can work in that type of material, and it'll be some high-end silver jewelers also. But you probably wouldn't have too many bead stringers. You probably wouldn't have too many steampunk jewelry. You probably wouldn't have the lady who does the tiny little macrame work.
Yeah, but when you're talking about beads, like Joyce Scott, I mean, she's a beader, and she is like at the apex of her career. She's from Baltimore. I don't know if you know who I'm talking about. So,
I've seen some fantastic beaters. I'm not putting any particular thing down.
People make their own beads.
But when you go to the show and you see a slew of not quality jewelry getting in because you think they've balanced the category for price points, that's a whole nother.
Okay.
I hope they don't do that.
They don't balance for price point, Mark. At least I don't know of any show that does. But I will
know if I ran a show, I certainly would.
Oh.
I wouldn't have all high-end people in my show. I would want my show to be well balanced. So I have something for everyone. I guarantee you that the promoters that run the shows certainly do.
Nope. That's not
Oh, you
most
don't think
shows,
Howard Allen? You don't think Howard Allen does that? He has
I know
100 shows.
nothing. I know
Who cares what
nothing
Howard
about
Allen does?
his shows.
Well,
I
Well,
never.
other shows follow the same suit, though. I mean, if I ran a show and I was a promoter, I would collect all the jury fees. I'd let my jury run. Then I would go back in and play around with it to get the way I like it.
Well, I will tell you that I ran a show for 15 years and we didn't mess with the jury results.
And I'm sure that there's some great people out there just like you, Bonnie, that don't. But
It's
I would
actually
think the majority
fraudulent.
of them.
That's
What's
right.
fraudulent? There's a clause, we just talked about it, that
Yeah.
gives the show director the right to do anything they want.
As long as they
Someone
have
just
that
mentioned
clause.
Well,
As long as they have
minimally.
that clause.
Now, we
That's
put that,
Minimally, it doesn't say minimally. It says
Well,
they
but
can do
you-
whatever they want.
Look at,
Okay,
they're not gonna
well,
have a
And they
jury.
do.
I
Mark,
love it.
I have, in my show, I had that the director got to like choose 2 people. And that's because that gave me an in if I wanted to end up doing the show. And I had to have a booth for Michael, my partner. But those
Yeah.
were the only ones that we did
Well,
that with.
Bonnie, I think you might be the rare person in the conversation that is very ethical and might do it that way. But I think
Thank
the
you.
majority of shows that I know of that I've been involved with, let's take Broad Ripple, for instance. They always balanced the jury category. They didn't want to have all high end. They would always go back after the jury and balance it so that the jewelry category was well balanced. I'm sure Carmel does the same thing.
That's why you end up with shows where you walk around and you say, oh my God, how did they get in? But the other thing I wanted to say about that was that there's a big difference between what people send in for jury images and what they may actually show up with.
Yeah, and
It-
that's other things that I've been noticing. And back to the point, like Kit, like I understand some people are that you get into every single show, but it cannot be the same 75% in every single show, because I thought that everybody is in the same level. That's
Right.
that's
I
impossible.
agree with that.
You know, I can understand you have like maybe 4 people in the category that is going to stand out all the time over everybody else. And I can live with that, but it should not be the same 10 people in every single show. That's not
Mhm.
possible,
Well,
because
Look,
most of the artists, for what I understand, is like this. If you divide it by the jury, say 10% of the artists are always going to get to every single show because that's the top people. Then it's another 20% that's nowhere in hell, and then everybody else in there is about the same level. And that's where the conflict comes. Like at least I would like to know, because looking this year, I was fortunate enough to be seeing Oliver at every single show that I did. And I saw Kid a couple of times this year also. And I think that Kid choose just to do Florida shows.
I just read or heard that.
yeah, I talked to him.
I
He's
know that
only
for-
doing Florida shows.
Yeah,
Because
I
he
know that
teaches
since
or
last
something.
year.
Wait,
even
who?
before that.
Who? Wait, who are we
Bill
talking about?
Kidd.
Bill Kidd.
Oh,
So, but Oliver, I look at his work and I think it's amazing, you know, and he doesn't get to every single show neither. Same thing now, know your favorite president, but Will Armstrong doesn't get to every single show that he applies neither. He got
Right.
listed for the show that I got in. So, and I think that his work is different from everybody else. So, and
Well, it used to be that I'd look at someone and say, well, how the hell did you get in? And I didn't. know, when you
Did you
walk
actually say that to
show-
somebody?
No, I said it to myself.
I've had people say that to me.
Oh,
I'm serious. I'm serious. People that you know said Potters go, how come you got in? You know, and I didn't. And my comeback is, hey, if I can get in, you can get in. You know, so keep applying.
But you know, like in ceramics, I see Timothy Sullivan, and I always scratch my head wondering how he doesn't get to more shows.
Yeah. See, I didn't want to bring up his name because I don't want him getting the idea that he should apply. But when I said there's people that never get in, I was specifically, he's one of the people I'm referring to.
You
and
know,
I'm sorry, what is his name again?
Tim Sullivan.
Timothy Sullivan.
I don't think I know who he is.
He's from Atlanta. He's really, really, really good.
Well, here's the thing about his work. It's the glazing.
I have to leave, everybody. It was nice
Okay.
talking. I'll see you
Nice
next
talking to you
Tuesday.
guys. Bye.
All right,
Okay.
bye-bye.
With Timmons' glazing, the forms are okay, but the glazing's outstanding. That that's that, and I don't want him getting the idea because that's just one more Potter to apply. So, which is why my new crusade is to have more Potters in the shows. Like there used to be 30, like that was the biggest category when I started doing it. Besides
Yep, me too.
clay, and like now there's hardly any in any show, and there's probably I don't know how many apply, but a lot of good people don't apply because they can't get in. They stop getting in, and I'm thinking about it. Why should I waste? Should I just go be a greeter at Walmart? God, shoot me first.
Or Home Depot.
Or
Well, all of this is, it's really interesting, but we've been arguing over the same things for so many years.
I know another.
I know, and it doesn't solve anything. I just trying to figure out.
Is it art? Is it art? Is it craft? Remember that one?
Yep.
That's a college thing. What I want to know is why are the same buy sell people around? They're still around. They're like roaches. You can't kill them. For 25 years. The same. I don't have to name any of them, but they're we're still battling them. You have to show directors, okay, and then that director leaves, and there's a new director, and the new director lets the buy sell in. I mean,
Yep.
you can't get rid of these people. There should be a list. I don't think there should be a blacklist, but it should be an unspoken thing that let's settle the issue with certain people.
Well, I think the thing is that if you read the prospectus of a show, there are certain types of work that isn't allowed in the show, so they have to just acknowledge, but it's hard, of course, for people to know in the first place. But if they're going by their own rules, then production work often is not acceptable, even if it's perfectly beautiful work. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a different venue.
Yeah, there are other places to sell production work.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was all.
I really want to bring up a specific thing, but I don't want to bring up a specific thing because there's legal issues and I can't talk about these people, but I'd like to have a private conversation with powers that be, like, should these people get in or not? Because in one instance, and we're talking about clay, the person that brought the artists to the shows, now, like, he's so callous that he's putting his own name on the work. Now he is doing some of the work in the pieces, but they're clearly not. It isn't just him, and his pieces aren't nearly as good as the originals that he's bringing. But to me, it really rankles me that he's so callous that now he's putting his own name on the work.
Hey,
Larry, can you stop the recording?
And winning the prize.
You want me to pause the recording?
Could you pause it?
Larry, there's some legal issues, and there's also the possibility of being, if you're like 75 or 80% right, but it's that 20% that you're not careful about, that isn't, it's fraudulent, or not fraudulent, but it's libel. So
Defamation.
yeah, so that's why you don't want to say anything. These
And
are
it's-
private conversations.
No names.
Even
And it's hard for
10%.
shows. It's hard for shows given, they're getting hundreds and thousands of people. So it's,
Okay. Listen, I got to ask this, and Bonnie will know the answer to this. They have a whole year. What do we have when we're getting ready for a show? A month? 3 weeks? They
It's
have a
not as
whole year
simple-
to
it's not
deal
as
with all
simple-
these things. I don't get it. They have the time to do this.
it's not as simple as what you think, really. I mean,
It's
No.
time.
and
What do you mean?
and it
It's
depends
timing.
upon, excuse me, it depends upon also if the show actually has a paid staff or they're all volunteers. I mean, so many variables.
No
It's not
excuse.
just that. It's just that from what I heard from the people that deal with that is that they have to be 100%, 110% certain this buy and sell. If they have even 1% the chance that it's not, they cannot ban the person. That's what I
Right.
keep hearing over and over from directors.
But
Right.
but Oscar, it's hard to prove 100%. The only way you can prove it is to say, okay, we're going to have you in for a workshop. We like what you do so well. We want you to come in and start at the beginning and make a whole piece from beginning to the end. We'll pay you to do it for the 2 weeks or whatever, and we'll see if they actually, if they can do.
Listen, there's nothing is foolproof. But
No.
okay, you raise a good point though. So for example, I post a lot on Instagram and Facebook. You could see process shots from like all of my work, very disorganized. It's not an orderly kind of thing.
Mhm.
However, if you have to do that for every artist, it just seems a Sisyphusian task.
That's
You're
true.
only going to do it for the ones that you had questions on.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
That's not. We're not talking about.
Whether it's questions that the jurors have
Mhm.
or questions that you yourself have.
Well,
But
look, there
can make notes. I'm very loud in my words when I'm jurying. If I think that there's something wrong, I always leave comments.
Yeah.
right. Well,
Hey, Allison, I'd love
yeah.
for every show in the country to have me come in and do a workshop. I'll gladly do it,
right.
especially
The
if they
problem
pay
is
me.
that people don't have the budget for that, Barry.
The what?
Some shows don't have budget for that. They even have a budget to go to talk to Cindy next month or this month, I mean.
Mhm.
So,
Well, that's a whole different story, right? The
that's
value,
another
yeah.
you have to think about it. They have the money to do this.
Are you now in the bathroom?
Me, no, the office.
I was going to say, can
I
you
love it.
stop the video a minute?
Right.
So, I'm in the office. I was in the dining room because I get a better lighting over there. And,
some people refer to their bathrooms as their office.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, but this is my office. Literally, it's my office.
Mhm.
Nice office.
Yeah. You know the best part?
What?
It's that ugly thing in the to my right. You know,
On the
those-
bottom shelf, right?
yeah, and the stuff in the stove are great.
Yeah. Well, you don't have any taste. What can I tell you?
I'm
But
telling
listen,
you.
the thing is, nothing is foolproof. I think that, I certainly don't know what goes on at all shows. But I feel like shows that I do, there are mishaps, and but they're doing their best, and it's also up to us to to help along with that, because they can't be the eyes and ears of everything.
Yeah.
Well, Art Fair Calendar has a group for a once a month show directors Zoom call.
Mhm.
And it has been great
Uh-huh.
because it's all kinds of big shows and little shows, and they're all over the country.
Mhm.
So it's very interesting hearing how other shows deal with whatever, fill in the
Right.
blank.
Right.
I've learned a
But
lot.
you know, but you know, also it's nothing can be 100% pure. Mistakes happen. I mean, it's you
Yep.
know, plenty of shows want to, you know, to do the right thing and all that, and people still get by them.
Yep.
So it's a tough business for them too.
The cheaters.
No, for the
The
for,
shows.
no
Sorry.
for the shows
You need
shows.
to eliminate the cheaters. That's tough.
Right.
I'm thinking you're being very nice to the cheaters.
No. I don't mean the cheaters. I'm talking about the shows themselves. That
Yeah,
you know,
I got
yeah. And again, not all shows have paid staff. So like, I mean, High Desert and Pearl both are all volunteers.
Yep.
And
You know, that shouldn't make a difference whether they get paid or they don't get paid.
because
It-
everyone who is a volunteer has to actually work also. So they don't have, that's not their full-time job.
I don't, there- I don't think in any show, there's not a whole lot of people that are they paid full time. Maybe the director.
There are
I
very few.
I don't know, but I know somebody who has to also work
Like
You know,
everybody.
aside from the show.
Okay, Barry, but
Bonnie?
it's fine to say that it's
So
fine
Barry, why don't you
volunteers
volunteer?
do it. But you know, how much time are you willing to give up for a volunteer project?
Right.
Hey, if I worked at a job 9 to 5, I would volunteer. My job is 24 hours. I don't have
Yes.
time to go volunteer.
My job is 24 hours too. So
I know. Well, every artist it's like that.
right. But I'm telling you that there are certain shows where the volunteers are actually working artists.
Yes.
And not only that, you don't see it in this way also, Barry. If you have a regular job, 9 to 5, you come home, you still have to do your house chores.
Right.
You have to take
You
care
got
of
to
your
do the
family.
laundry, cook dinner.
You have
Yeah.
to
But
do
you
all
know
the stuff.
what?
It's not like I got all this free time to do this thing. That's when they have day offs.
Listen.
So then
The volunteers that are artists and they come to the show and they're working at the show as a volunteer, they know what to do. If you ask them a question, they're going to help you out because they've been there. They have the experience. It's the other people that have they work at whatever retail or whatever they do, and they don't come, or they come to the show and they need to be trained to answer those questions or to help out. And that's what I mean. And I'm not putting anybody down, but I hate it when I come to a show and I'm asking a volunteer a simple question and they don't know the answer because they weren't trained. They weren't told, how to answer that.
Well, you cannot train a volunteer to know the answers to all the questions.
Right.
Just not possible.
How about like where to park? I'm talking about basic questions.
Yep.
Where to park?
Even where to park. What if
Where are
she's
the
on
porta
hospital?
potties? Those are the
What if
questions I'm
she's
talking
on
about.
hospital? Okay, she doesn't know where to park because she got dropped off and she's in hospitality, which
Right.
has nothing to do with parking. She knows her hospitality jobs extremely well, but she doesn't know where to tell you to park. Perfectly reasonable.
Okay.
Not all shows have big sponsors, and so, not to say, I mean, obviously, we want shows that are run well. It's just that as far as this like cheating, the artists who cheat or, letting in manufacturers, things like that, it sucks, but they get past the rails that are there. And, in an ideal world, it's
Mm.
recognized and then, resolved.
Well,
Who's
should
letting them in?
Well,
send
they
you
don't, this
along
is
with
an annoying,
your acceptance? When they accept you and give you the notification of your acceptance, they should be giving you a little map of where to park and where the, porta potties are.
Well,
Oh,
that
right.
happens pretty much, but
He
that's
gets
like a few
all
days
that.
before the show.
they
But he
also make you
doesn't
sign,
agree.
they also make you sign a contract, that might say something like, the artist has to be present, the artist makes all the work, da-da-da.
Yeah.
But it's still not easy to just kick someone out because of, this
Oh,
litigious world we live in.
let me tell you something. If they can do it at our local show here, and I've seen it happen where they kick somebody out in the middle of the show, they certainly can do it at a big show, like without any repercussions.
Well,
It's possible to do because I've seen it.
right. Well, you've seen it in one place in one state. There's so many variables.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This
Yeah.
is great. I'm sorry I got on late, but at least it was educational.
Ask for
Yes,
It helped
definitely was.
clear any frustrations I had.
So,
Are you-
so Bonnie, was
Yeah.
last week the other Thursday?
the other Tuesday.
The other Tuesday, yes.
Okay, all right. I got confused there. All right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How
So-
come there's a
Watch out,
Taco
Allison.
Tuesday, but not a Taco Thursday?
Yeah. We're not in Florida anymore. There's no Taco Tuesdays in Florida.
Okay, so I'm leaving. Have a great week, everybody.
All right.
Okay.
Nice seeing you,
See
Bonnie.
you,
Yes.
Bonnie.
I'm gonna go also. I gotta go throw the
Oh.
garbage out.
What time is it? I should go too.
6:00 your time.
Thank you,
What
Larry.
time is it?
It's
3
after
o'clock.
6.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the Red Wings don't come on till 7, so
I need
you
to
know.
go and watch my game. I'm sorry, guys. See you next week.
Bye.
Hey, go Ellie. Go Ellie.